Okay. We should be live.
Okay.
We are live. Excellent. People seem to be online. That's good. Okay, we are doing tier lists again today. Considering that the stream I did yesterday with tier lists did very well, and it was also very fun to make. But we'll be doing some different topics this time. So the first one we're starting off with, again, I encourage you guys to join the Discord server so you can vote, is Marvel movies plus Disney TV shows. So you got one view. That's good. Starting up. We don't need a non-applicable one for this. Anything that I haven't seen can just go down here, since there's very few that I wouldn't have seen here. I'm just going to wait for some people to start watching, and then we can start, because I don't want to just put a bunch on here when there aren't many people watching. So how's everyone doing today? Hello, Waterkai. Alright, with the stream latency, I think it's not overshooting it to get started. We should get more people picking up soon. I just don't want to wait too long. So, here we go. Marvel movies and Disney TV shows. For anyone that's just joining now, I'm going to be putting things that I haven't seen at the back, since there's very few that I haven't seen. But, yep. Alright, let's get started. The first one we have here is Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy in A. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was a solid movie. It's very funny. It's got a good cast. It's hard to believe that Chris Pratt was the same guy who just... Oh, this came out in 2014. Yeah, at the same time was also filming a show in which he played a slightly overweight... lazy, here we go. Hello, Mr. Bean. Good, thank you. Hello, Nathan. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, it is a low A, because I think there were some missteps, like that final scene. While it was funny in some cases, it was a bit cringy and maybe a bit overdone. But it was still a fun film, and I think that's what makes it so loved by most of the community. Next up, we have Avengers Age of Ultron, which I do think gets too much hate, but I don't think it's A or S. I think it's B. A low B at that. It is definitely the least best Avengers movie. Wow, 3 concurrent viewers already. Thank you, guys. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad movie. Mind you, I don't really think there is... maybe there are only a few Marvel movies that are quote-unquote bad. But for the most part, it really establishes a lot of world building. It builds off of what happened in Avengers... the first Avengers. In some cases, it can feel a little bit out of place. Like, there are a lot of scenes where just... it's either characters talking or the whole barn scene that took a bit long. And while I personally enjoy that sort of things, because I prioritize world building when it comes to these sort of expanded universes, especially, I know a lot of people didn't appreciate that as much. And yes, the script probably wasn't as it probably wasn't as refined. There weren't a lot of moments where you go like, that's an iconic moment. Like, you've got like at least 10 moments from Avengers, the first Avengers, that are iconic. You've got Cap calling Thor Breakpoint. And that also happens in the newer Avengers movies, and even the new Marvel movies. But I just feel like it was sort of the odd one out when it came to the Avengers, because all the other Avengers movies, and I'll tell you now, are a bit higher. Now it's Ant-Man time. Ant-Man is again another B, a lower B and a very, very low B. I'll say that. Ant-Man was fun. I think Paul Rudd's a good actor. I think he did well with what he could in this script. There were definitely some missteps. they I do feel that the directors were trying to pander to audience fandom in a lot of ways. You've got and also Michael Douglas was great in it. Yeah, I think Ant-Man's a fun movie, but it's hanging onto that B on a thread. It like and one more misstep and it'd be a C, because I think a C is much more accurate for Ant-Man, but it's just a fun movie and that's what keeps it up. Was it better than Age of Ultron? Well, it came after Age of Ultron. It came out in 2015. They both did. I feel like that year was the year that a lot of the market and the media was changing, so they probably had to try and pander to a lot of different things, and maybe they overdid it in some places, like I suppose in Age of Ultron. But look, I'm a big fan of James Spader. I will just go back to Age of Ultron really quickly, so maybe I'm a little bit biased as to that regard, but for those of you who don't know, he played Ultron in Age of Ultron, James Spader. So, yeah, that's how I'm going to keep it there. And then we've got Civil War. Now, I think Civil War gets a lot of hate, and it's kind of undeserving. If I'm right, this came out in 2016. Again, with who's just coming up now, Doctor Strange. That was a pretty strong year for Marvel, because that was when the nostalgia of the Avengers, the first Avengers, and all the other movies that had came out, just a few years ago now, they were starting to go, oh, how good's Marvel. And this was right after, of course, the Star Wars started up, which really piqued a lot of superheroes movies up. And I feel like the Civil War came around at a good time for when it happened. So Civil War, I'm going to put as a high B. It's not an A. I used to think it was an A, but it does actually have a few flaws. It was the movie that introduced Black Panther. Sadly, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. I think in a lot of places, it did well for world building. Did well establishing all the different connections and how the Avengers have to work. I think that in a lot of areas there were some I don't want to say misguide, but there were some missteps as to how characters acted. Like, I don't necessarily think that Tony Stark would be immediately saying, we've got to follow the rules. He's not particularly like that. But yeah, people say that it's much more of an Avengers movie than it is a Captain America. I believe that's true. It's like a DLC to Avengers: Age of Ultron. Probably would have been better if they released a show of it. Maybe that would have been a bit, because like a 6-episode thing where you establish all the connections. It's not particularly tied to one character. It's just Avengers: Civil War. It is focused on Captain America, but I think in a lot of places it's a bit more tied to a different audience of characters. Anyway, now we've got on to Doctor Strange, and here's the thing: my opinion on Doctor Strange has changed a lot. I used to think it was S. I used to think it was A, and then I thought it was B, and now I'm going to put it at a low A. I think Doctor Strange did well in a lot of areas. I think Benedict Cumberbatch their cast was very good. They got Benedict Cumberbatch is of course great. Benedict Wong is of course great. Established a good amount of world building. Probably maybe could have focused a bit less on Strange as a character, and maybe like. I think it would have been good to establish a connection with the world, a bit more of a connection with the world, and the Sanctum Sanctorum, and how that works. I think that would have been really interesting to see. But other than that, there were a lot of cool visual shots, of course. The finale was great. Didn't just end in some fight scene. It was actually clever. I wish a lot more Marvel movies would do this, because that is cinematography. That is how the audience is going to go, that's really cool. And yes, some people are just going to want action, but you get action. Right before that scene, you get a decent amount of fighting between Strange and the other guys. And in a reverse scene, arguably, I'd say that's one of the coolest action scenes in Marvel. And you've also got a lot of action throughout the rest of the movie with the mirror dimension scene. I feel like this movie just did so well at so many things, and the things that it didn't do well at, like maybe a bit more world building, I feel like it only kind of didn't do that just a bit. I still think it's a really, really good film. All right. Oh, I suppose that's a good point, Nathan. That's fair. Yeah, I suppose that's fair, but I feel like there were it's not just Tony Stark. Like I feel like a lot of characters maybe were a bit selfish, and Hawkeye kind of just joined whichever team was going to give him screen time, I feel. Of course, that's not true, but there are a lot of other things, but yeah. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I used to really, really love this movie. I used to put it in right up into A. I don't, in fact, I do just want to amend something. I'm going to put Doctor Strange above Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not putting it in A now. I'm going to put it at a B. I think it's, I'm going to put it at a, yeah, I think that's fair. It's a fun movie. It's, got a good amount of world building in it. I have received a ping. I'll check that later. It's got a good amount of world building. It's got, the characters establishing, connections. I think that's really good. Good cast again, but it's relatively the same to Guardians of the Galaxy. This came out in 2017. Yes. Or did it? Yes, no, 2017. And that was another experimental time with a lot of Marvel. This is when rumors about Avengers Infinity War were starting to come out, and everyone was going like, whoa, what's going on here? And as well with Black Panther that's coming up as well, and Thor Ragnarok. They were all coming out at around this time, and they were all really experimental movies. Because Black Panther is set in a completely new environment, completely new character. Thor Ragnarok is just like out in a completely different world. And then you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, which tries to start, I don't want to say humanizing superheroes, but it kind of does that in a way. I say that's the wrong term to use, but what I feel that this movie tried to do is it tried to create a TV show, or a 7 seasons drama out of one movie, because you had characters in different galaxies at different times. Like you had Rocket Raccoon and their whole, and Yanda's, that whole thing on a spaceship. You had Peter Quill, you had Drax, and you had Gamora, all on Ego. But I think that the missteps that they took is that it was mainly Guardians of the Galaxy is Guardians of the Galaxy because they are all a team. And the first scene was really good. You've got the whole Mr. Blue scene, that's really funny, really good. You get to see Groot dancing. Baby Groot is great. But for a lot of this movie, especially in the finale and all that other things, they try to do the Avenger-like pose, but it comes off as really vague, because they spent the entire movie away from each other. And in the first movie, that problem was amended because they were all together. I think it's a fun and enjoyable movie, but I just feel like they were trying to, again, maybe a show would have been better for this sort of thing, because you could make a really good Guardians of the Galaxy show out of this sort of concept where they're all split up and they're all doing different things, because you don't need to force that into a 90-minute I don't want to say clusterfuck, but it's a lot of chaos and a lot of entertainment. While that can be good, I just feel like they need to balance that out a bit more. The cast is again amazing, and it's a fine and fun movie, but just, yeah. I know a lot of people would actually put this movie in C, but I'm not doing that because there are some fun moments. And it's better than Ant-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming. Or is that Far From Home? Nope, that's Homecoming. Okay, I'm putting Homecoming in A. Low A, and it is below... Actually, it's below Guardians of the Galaxy for a few reasons. First of all, Tom Holland is amazing as Spider-Man. The story is believable, even though that the timeline really just messes up. Like at the beginning of the movie they say 8 years after 2012. If that's the case, it's 2020 when this movie takes place. Now that's usually fine, but the problem is they put during 2020 in the Marvel universe, half of the population was gone, and I suppose you can't eat a big and Spider-Man wasn't even alive at that point. So yeah, its timeline is a bit messed up, but the whole plot is rather believable. That scene where Tom Holland is in the car with the Scorpio, the guy, that's crazy. Like, that is such an intense, and I don't want to say, harsh scene, because he's going like, you saved my daughter's life, and for that, I'm going to let you live. I'm going to give you one more chance. Stay out of this, or you regret it. And it's just so powerful. And that sort of directing in such a goofy movie a lot of the time, it's really, really interesting. Yeah. Alright, Thor Ragnarok. I am putting Thor Ragnarok... Yeah, I'm putting it in B. High B. Ooh, yeah. Thor Ragnarok is another movie, again, 2017, very experimental time. It's a movie that tries a lot of things. It makes Thor funny, and that really works. Chris Hemsworth really works as funny. Got a good cast, again. Whether you needed to add Mark Ruffalo to the mix, didn't... I like Mark Ruffalo, but I'm mainly referring to the Hulk. Like, whether you needed to add him in, that's debatable. Arguably, he didn't really add much to the story. I think this movie was really trying to set up Infinity War, and it did a good job of that. The end credit scene was great. But yeah... Yeah, I feel like it came out during experimental time. Taika Waititi, who is a very comedic director, and he's a comedian, obviously, but he's again very experimental. I wanted to do and got to do a review on this movie for a class project last year. Being one of the funnest assessments I've ever had. So yeah, I think it's a movie that can be taken the wrong way. I think it has some of the best jokes that Marvel have ever produced, like the rock paper scissors thing and didn't print enough flyers. That's such a Taika Waititi thing to do. I am glad that he's coming back for Thor 4. I'm interested to see what he does with that. I don't love all of Taika Waititi's things. I think in some cases he can be a bit too out there, but I think he's a good director. And I don't think he could do something like Infinity War. I think that would be a mistake, because Infinity War is such a different atmosphere. That's meant to be something that's really serious. This movie, not so much. You've even got the main villain, Hela, cracking jokes, or Surtur, played by Clancy Reynolds. It's such a good cast, I'll say again. But yeah, it's going in B. What's everyone thinking? Nice. Oh, really good. 3 viewers. Thank you, guys. Black Panther. I haven't watched Black Panther to the extent that I feel as though I can rank it, but I do know enough to give it a quick rundown. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman did pass away recently, if you didn't know. I feel like, from what I've seen of Black Panther, it's probably around about, again, another B tier. Maybe just below Avengers Age of Ultron, or just about above it. I Although again, I haven't watched it. Martin Freeman is great. I know that. I've seen all his scenes. Yeah, it looks like a fun enough movie. I haven't watched enough of it to actually rank it, but I assume it's a... But yeah, I just don't want to rank it, in case it's, yeah, in case I'm wrong. Because I do want to watch it eventually, but I just don't want to, go overboard just yet. Okay, Avengers Infinity War is our first S tier. I will say now that it is the best Marvel movie, so we've got that out of the way. I watched this movie, I think, on its 7th or 6th day, one of the first days it came out. It came out in 2018, when I was 12 years old. So, what to say about Avengers Infinity War? When I watched this movie in cinemas, and I got to watch it in cinemas, I loved that. I was astounded by how good it was. I spent the first few months before it re-binging all of the Marvel movies, just so I made sure that I am hyped up for this. And oh boy, the hype was worth it. That opening scene is one of the best scenes of cinematography that Marvel has ever produced. Josh Brolin is fantastic. Here's a fun fact about Josh Brolin. He also starred in a movie called W, which is based off of a... yeah, here it is. Which is based off of a biography of George W. Bush. So, that puts it into perspective of how much of a variety of an actor he is. He can go from, he can go to, being a mad titan with an infinity gauntlet. Or he can be, an enthusiastic president of the United States. I just wanted to say that because I've always loved that fact. The cast is great, of course. It's the best Avengers movie. It's just perfect. It's so fun. It's probably the funniest Marvel movie. I laughed out loud so much during this movie. When Thor's talking to the Guardians, the script is great. One problem that I do have with this movie is its world building. Its world building is pretty lackluster. In fact, it's less to an extent that Doctor Strange was, and that brings it down a bit, but even then, it is still the best Marvel movie. Mind you, I prioritize different things. I personally really prioritize world building, but honestly, it's not a big deal. I'm going to complain about it a bit more with Avengers Endgame, but... yeah. And we've got another S, Iron Man. Iron Man is S, again. I love this movie. It was the first, or wasn't the first, it was one of the first Marvel movies I watched. Great cast. I think you'd all should probably a lot of people should understand. Hello, Sejura. We've just cracked 4 Kakao viewers. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Sejura, I think I do remember you. Thank you for watching the stream. Iron Man is a great movie on its own. I feel like if they didn't create the MCU and just made an Iron Man movie, that would be great. That would still be S. Because a lot of these other movies obviously rely on the MCU being existent to exist. This was the first Marvel movie. This was back in 2007 when Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. came together and said, we've got to save this Marvel franchise, let's make a movie about it. And this thing skyrocketed, not only at the box office, but in popularity and in the media and trending. It was a great movie, and they immediately started cracking on Iron Man 2, which where is that actually? Have they? Oh, there it is. And we'll get to that in a bit. But yes, Iron Man 1 is a great movie, and it's got a... Right. Yeah, I don't... Well, I'm just going to get very into Minecraft bridging and having in a while. So yes, Iron Man, yes, it's a very good movie. Unfortunately now, we have our first C tier, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't want to go too low with these. The lowest I think I'm going to go is going to be E. I already know I'm putting some things in E. Ant-Man and the Wasp... just didn't need to exist. Again, another sort of cinematography that would have worked so well as a show. But this was right before or after Disney was bought by... Marvel was bought by Disney, and they weren't really focusing on that sort of stuff yet. Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp has a good intention, but it just doesn't work as a standalone movie. You've got 3 different plots. Yes, it's a supposedly funny movie, but that's not what this movie, I think, could have focused on. A lot of cool fight scenes. The plot kind of goes everywhere. The whole getting the mum back thing is a bit underwhelming because it's so easy, and they just completely blow off that when Paul Rudd is taken over by her. It's like, oh, you've seen her now, so that completely destroys the reunion. So it's a bit of a misstep in my opinion. If I was going to be harsh, maybe it's more of a D, but I'm going to put it in C because there are some funny moments. Yeah. Okay. Captain Marvel. This is another movie that I saw in cinemas. Alright. For starters, I think I'm going to start off before I rank it by saying that I think Captain Marvel should have come out after Endgame. Before Infinity War. I think it should have come out before Infinity War, and I think it should have come out during the 2017 experimental phase, because that was a time when they were starting off a lot of new projects like Black Panther, all that stuff. I think that was the year that the Disney buy happened. I'd have to check though. It's just, it came in at a bit of a weird time. It came out after Infinity War as a prequel. Now I'm fine with it being in the 80s, but could it have been set in maybe the 2010s? Like, I don't think there's any harm in doing that because, if it happens in, let's say, 2015, but it came out in 2017, that's a good place to put it. After Age of Ultron, but before Infinity War, that way you don't have to make an excuse about Captain Marvel straight up just not coming during the New York invasion of 2012. Like, I think that was a bit of a misstep in the world building sense, but this movie does do well in some places. Now I'm going to reveal where I put it on the list. Okay. Now I'm sorry to upset anyone that thinks this movie is better, but it's getting a C. It's getting better than Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I'm going to explain why I don't think this movie is as good as it can be. For starters, I want to say that I'm fine with a female lead. I think it's a great idea that should have happened a long time ago. It did start coming around during the Black Panther. It's just that the plot was so niche. Again, another movie centered around the Space Stone. That's like I think that's a 4th, because you had, you've got, I suppose you could tie them all back, but you had the first Avengers, you had Spider-Man, I suppose, for the most part. You had a lot of, you had Thor. It's all been focused on the Tesseract, and it's like, can you maybe mix up the plot a bit? Maybe she was experimenting on like another mystical object. Like, tie it away from the Infinity Stones a bit, because we've just had a massive movie about those Infinity Stones. And while, yes, world building upon that fact is great, it's just, if you like this movie or if you don't like this movie, yeah, yes, exactly. It's a MacGuffin. Yeah. It's an absolute plot device. I feel like this movie had so much potential, but it just was let down by so many. I mean, look, the actors are fine. Jude Law's great for the 10 seconds that he gets in the movie. Samuel Jackson's good. Ben Mendelsohn, who was an Australian, is great. And he pops up again in Spider-Man Far From Home, which I loved. The popping up. I'll let you know about the movie in a second. I just feel like Captain Marvel, it could have been a lot better. I know there's a second one coming out. Maybe I don't think that this could have worked as a show, I'll say, because it's very focused on one little thing. You can't really dissolve all of those plot points into a 6-episode show. And all of the plot points just seem to come. Like, they all just seem to go there. Like, when you need something, it's going to be there. When they needed to talk to Ben Mendelsohn, when they needed all that info, it just goes to them. It's not as if they have to go finding for it, or if they have to, lock him down, which is, that would because that would create an actual story. No, he's just there. And that's a real letdown for me. And I'm sorry to anyone who does enjoy this movie. It's not, I don't think it's a particularly funny movie, but it could be and should probably be. But I'm glad, if you enjoyed it, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, the big one, Avengers Endgame. I saw this movie on the first day of its release in Australia. The first day. And I was not disappointed. It is a solid S. It's not better than Iron Man, but it is still a very good movie. It's not a high S. In fact, it's relatively low S. Probably, if I were being accurate, it's more of an A. But this movie is too iconic and also too well made to just put it down there. I'm putting up an S for formality reasons. Yes, it's an S. Endgame. For starters, Russo brothers, again, coming back. It's the first, sort of two-parter Marvel movie that they've ever done. I suppose you could call the Avengers movies already two-parters, but not really, though. Infinity War was better, and I'll explain that in a second. Avengers Endgame was very good. It had the cast was excellent, especially since they had to swipe off half of them. The story was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best story we've ever had. Bit lackluster in some cases, again, with the world building. What happened during those 5 years? We got a 2-minute scene. That's all we get, with Captain America going it's a shame that everyone's gone. Anyway, now let's go back to Iron Man. We could have had just add another 5 minutes with people crying, or newspapers saying world gone. We didn't even get a date for when the snap happened. We just had to assume it was somewhere in April. And of course, I'm being very picky there, but so many other shows and so many other directors would focus on those sort of plot points. The Russo brothers themselves, they did Civil War, and that was filled with, good for you, Nathan. That's what probably keeps it from being above Iron Man. Also, the way that the story progresses is a little bit, they say, we can't build a time machine. 10 seconds later, we can build a time machine. Tony Stark is a smart guy. Whether he could figure out how to build a time machine within 10 minutes, not sure if that's totally fathomable. I don't know if time travel was exactly the right way to do it. I will say that the things that time travel allow us to see in the movie are very good. Like the Cap versus Cap scene, Tony speaking with his father, all of that is golden, but we get very little of it. And while that does help to, I suppose, build the world, it's not really, though, because it's just character centralized, and all that is character development. The final fight scene was good. Maybe a little bit, could have explained it a bit better in a few places. Captain Marvel, just becoming an ex machina. Yeah. One of the other reasons why I feel like this movie, could have come out Captain Marvel could have come out at a different time. I feel like this movie shouldn't have had Captain Marvel in it, because this is Avengers, and while Captain Marvel is an Avenger, she's very new to the game. Her movie came out after Infinity War. It's why is she suddenly being treated as... I know she's powerful, but why is she so... Anyway, Avengers Endgame is a very good movie, and it lived up to the hype that it built up over, so long. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus, of course. I'm going to recommend all of these movies maybe, except the ones below C. But we haven't gotten to those yet. Mind you, we're getting relatively close. Yeah, it's a very good movie. Alright, next up we have Spider-Man Far From Home. Again, putting this movie at a solid B. High B. This movie is an A. This movie isn't A because of its, I don't want to say plot, because the plot is fine. It's just that the way... Okay, for those of you who don't know, Mysterio is a person in the comics, and he is a big villain. He's someone who creates illusions as a Hollywood stage producer, and the way that they put him out in here is good. It's very unique and creative, and I like the way that they tie it back to Tony Stark's doing. The absolute, just exposition scene during that bar maybe was a bit cliche, but I loved seeing that in the cinemas. And this was another movie that I saw in cinemas. I loved seeing all the drones slowly move away the holograms, and you see Jake Gyllenhaal, who does very well in this movie, go now that was easy, wasn't it? And it was that's a great moment. And it's those little moments is why this movie is in B. And you've got, Peter having fun on the plane, or say having fun, but maybe that's not the... I don't think it's A, Sejiro, but it is. I will say it's very close to an A. I'll explain why it is an A in a second. Final fight scene was really good. The script was good. Actors are great. Yeah, I think it's just. I do feel though in some places it can be a bit. Maybe a little bit unrealistic. Like drones creating holograms by thinking. Maybe, I know that drones moving via thoughts is actually a real world thing. You can put a chip in your brain. Oh, it's not a chip. It's like a whole device. It's people can volunteer if they have brain cancer or something, and you can get that implanted, and then suddenly you can control drones how they move. It's crazy, but it's true. Look up the MatPat video on it. It's like microbots. But yeah. So it's maybe not the most unfathomable thing, considering we've got a guy in a suit with a green massive Hulk, with a lightning god, all shooting at a purple geologist that likes rocks. But still, it's I feel like they maybe. Also, the things that we get to see because of the technology is not underweighed. That illusion scene, that's just amazing. Like, it's incredible how well this movie does at what it does, at what it focuses on. The connection between Peter and MJ was focused on, and it does great. The focus on Peter being not ready, Peter's development as a character is done so well. You know what? I think you're right, Sergio. I'm going to put it in A, but a low A. Yeah, this movie does very well. At the things that it does well at. And I think that's ultimately what puts it into A, is that it balances out things. It does so good with world building, might I add. It does very good with world building. For the first few months after I saw this, I thought it was better than Homecoming. I don't think that anymore. I think it's just under Homecoming, but they're both two very good movies, and I'm excited to see what Spider-Man No Way Home brings. A little bit sad about that title, but I do like that they're going with the home stuff there, but maybe sorry Mr. Bean. Yeah, it's A tier. Yeah, that's what I have to say about Spider-Man Far From Home. Fun movie, good cast. Yeah. And you can't make the excuse that this movie could have been a show, because I don't think it could have worked really well as a show, because it's too focused on one plot, and one subject. With a show, you have to make sure that it balances out its key points, and this movie, it works really well as a movie. Okay, we've got our first show here. We've got WandaVision. I was so excited for WandaVision when it first came out. Back in January of this year. I loved the first episode. I thought it was really good. It was really unnerving what was going on. The directing was fabulous. The script was great. It was just so out there. And I was like, this is what Marvel should be. This is Marvel experimenting in the right way. And I immediately thought, okay, if they pull this off for the entirety of the show, this is going to be S-tier material. Second episode was not disappointed. They did it again. They did greatly. And I was thinking, all right, this is starting to pull off a streak. Episode 3. Not as much, but still good. Episode 4, okay, moving into a bit of uncharted territory here. Brilliant world building during that episode. I was really horny. I was really happy. I was very happy about that. But yeah. I just think that this movie does so well. Sorry, I don't know what I was... Sorry, I was thinking about something else there. I just think that the first few episodes, from up to episode 4, does so well. However, then we get on to episode 5, and beyond. So, I'm going to tier this now, and I hope you're all watching. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit loud, my microphone is very good. The first 4 episodes of this were really good. I'm sorry, but those final episodes, maybe not including that second last episode, completely ruined this show. Completely ruin it. For starters, we did not need to get introduced to a new superhero throughout the second end of that episode. The final episode. The final episode was probably one of the worst action scenes ever. Just in anything, not just in Marvel, but in anything. It was kind of a disgrace in a way, because those first 4 episodes, we were building upon something that could have been so great. And then it just completely goes downhill, because it's Disney, and they have to pander to the audience that loves action. And it's another CGI fight scene, and it's so cringy, and it's so... This is C tier, and it's such a shame, because they built up something that could have been so good. The final episode is terrible. The second last episode is okay. The episode before that episode is pretty bad, and the one before that, which I believe is episode 5, is meh. Yeah, it's such a shame. Anyway, however, there was a silver lining here, because then we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I shouldn't say silver lining. It is still a C tier, higher C tier, but it's yeah. Also, the reason I'm giving WandaVision C and not D is because of the world building it establishes. Same thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It would usually be a low C if it didn't do so well with world building and being a good baseline for a show. Problem with this show was that it was really... it's gonna sound... if you guys... See ya, Sajira. If you guys want to share your different opinions, please put them in the chat. I'm not, worried, I suppose. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier had potential, and its first episode, again, was really good. It started up a lot of different plot lines, it had a good script, great world building, it humanized superheroes, again. In fact, you know what, I'll put it in a low B. But it just, as it dragged on, I started realizing, okay, I know what they're doing here. So there wasn't a lot of action, which I like, but there was at least like one energetic scene throughout every episode, which is a good balance. First action scene was good. I just think that it was a little... it's a shame. I find it is a shame because they had a lot of potential. With the first I'll say with the first two episodes, and then they kind of just, they started focusing on a lot more of the terrorist acts, and that was kind of like, okay, well, what are we doing here? A good opportunity, whether that was directly corresponded with a good use, don't know, but it's still a fine. It's fine. Black Widow. I have unfortunately not seen Black Widow, and I don't really plan to. I don't think this movie needs to exist. I don't think this movie needs to exist. It's a prequel, and we already know she's dead. And of course, it's good to establish background on characters that have already died, because that's just a good way of doing it. And using prequels to do that can be good. I just think that we don't necessarily need to see all of the stuff that happened. It might be better being left a bit vague. But still, I haven't seen the movie, so we'll see. I don't want to... I'll back down to 2 because that's alright. Still hope everyone's enjoying. But yeah, I think Black Widow probably might be a good movie if it balances out well and it does establish the world building. I've seen I've seen a review on it that says it has a good plot, which is, maybe good. I've seen the end credits scene. Yeah, that's gonna just be another Disney show. They're just trying to create as many opportunities as they can to make a show. And you all should know that is true. That Disney, all they really want is to branch off these shows so they can make more shows so they can make money. And while in some very rare cases that can, please an audience, it's always how it's going to be these days. I don't think they really care about world building. It's just, they want to create as much opportunity as possible to make more money. But then, people say that, okay, WandaVision was meh, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was okay. People have been going like, maybe Loki will be saving grace. Nope. It was trash. It is the first ET out. What a terrible fucking excuse for a show. I don't really have much to say about this other than I watched this whole show, and the only times I felt like really into it were during when they went in the future to 2050, and sometimes in that Loki crossover episode. It was really just dull, and just honestly, I don't really want to speak about it too much because I've seen so many other reviews and people have already outlined its major problems. Don't give it F because there are some, I suppose, minorly good moments. The plot itself is it's actually not a good plot. It's too out there for a show, and it's too vague for a movie and too short for a movie. I just don't think this is ever going to work. They've created a season 2 for it. Why would you do... I just want to say that I love the fact, and I don't like this, I hate this, they created their Loki as their Loki poster is the Loki that isn't even Loki, or the centralized Loki. It's just the Loki that runs for president, or is seen to be running for president in that one episode, and he's in there for 10 seconds, and then his hand gets bitten off by an alligator. What? Why would you... 19 minutes of average watch time. Alright. But yeah. I understand that a lot of people disagree. But if you enjoy it, good for you. But it's hard to deny its major flaws. even if you like it. I just think it should have, if it wanted to go for 2 seasons, it should have started off with Loki being in the TVA for at least like 3 episodes, and then solving like little episodic crimes, like this is like what the Mandalorian should have done. Like have maybe one time, it's a gang of people who like to tamper with time. You got to take them out. Good for world building and a good thing. And then in season 2, that's when you get onto the extra Loki stuff, because it's another layer. And then you can go a bit in depth with how much happens in it. I think that would have just worked much better. But the script, and it's just... Even the first 2 episodes, which are arguably much less bad than the other episodes, are still pretty meh. The plot doesn't make sense. Nothing the characters really do make sense. It's all just so gullible. Anyway, haven't seen Hulk, but I plan to. I've seen a lot of people putting in F. Yeah, maybe it is. We've just got Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, Avengers, and Iron Man 3 and Thor. Oh, okay, never mind. We've actually got quite a few left to go. Okay. What do I think of Iron Man 2? Well, I'll start off by saying that I think it's... They did a classic sequel twist. Or not a twist, but they did a classic sequel trope, where this is what Shrek did a lot of times, where the main goal of the villain is set by something that the protagonist did in the first film, and that's fine. In fact that's arguably good, but in here, I don't even think I can remember what the villain's goal was. Like, I know he wanted to kill him, but yeah, I don't know. I just I think he was like, I know his father died. This movie is very focused on action, much more focused on action than the first one was, and that's so sad. Because if it focused on the first one's ties much more, then it could have been I think it could have been a lot better. But for now, I'm gonna rank it as a high C. I think that's fair. And then we have Thor, which comes out, I think 2000 I don't know. It's the first movie to come out, first Marvel movie to come out that's not Iron Man. Yeah. Look, I think it gets a bit of undeserved hate. It is a C. It's a C. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as everyone says it is. It's got a fair enough plot, I suppose. The story, there's a difference between the plot and the story. The story is which is much more focused on why things are happening and how it's happening, is very cliche. I suppose the plot is as well in a lot of ways. I think it's overhated, but I do think it's a bit of a misstep. Yes. Okay. Then we have Captain America: The First Avenger, which I haven't seen. I haven't watched that movie. I've watched a bit of it, but not all of it. I do hope to watch it all one day. I never really got around to watching it. Yeah, sorry. But I am like pretty sure that it's a good movie, like A or B, because I've seen a lot of reviews on it. Yes. And then we have The Avengers, which is another S. Yeah. Yeah. So 3 of the 4 Avengers movies, or 5 if you count Civil War, are all in S. I think that says a lot about how much effort they put into building up that sort of climax. The Avengers came out in 2012. It was a massive thing. I remember it. It was a big time during, and everyone was so hyped for it because people loved Iron Man. People, fine with Thor. I think First Avenger really helped to, punch in that extra, that extra hype. Like, this is happening and this is going to be big. Yeah, I think it just, maybe if it came out a bit later, I would have put it higher. Maybe even higher than Infinity War. Can't really go much higher, I suppose. Because in a lot of ways there were some, misdevelopments. We didn't really, Nick Fury's introduced, Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner isn't introduced, but he's to being built up. Yeah, I think that this movie is just a really good movie, and that's why it's an S, and a high S at that. So yes, that's what I think about Avengers. That's what a lot of people think about Avengers. It's a very good movie. Then we have Iron Man 3, which is the first D. You know what? No, I won't. I'll put it in a C. Thing is, Iron Man 3 was just a bit of a shame. Iron Man 1 was excellent. Iron Man 2 was okay, and then Iron Man 3 was just like... It's a lot of people think that Iron Man 3 is better than Iron Man 2. Maybe. In fact, you know what? I'll put them together just so that I don't, get too focused on which is better. If you had to ask me, I'm putting them as a tie, but if you had to ask me which I personally liked a bit more, I'd say Iron Man 3 does good as establishing world building. Remember, it came out after Avengers, the first Avengers, and it had a big role to fill, because it had to establish a lot of new metas after what happened during that invasion. It built up Tony's, how Tony is feeling about the whole thing. He had to go into space, and that's really good. That's one of the great parts of the movie. Problem is that's never built upon after this movie. It just goes away. And yes, maybe he still has it, and we're just not showing it on screen. But I feel like, especially in Avengers Endgame, that could have been a really good place to build upon that. Like show Tony still possessing the nightmares, and how he, if he had just stopped, Chris Pratt, and when he tried to punch Thanos, which I will actually just head back to Infinity War now to say that was a bit of a misstep. That Chris Pratt punching thing. I don't think they really needed to do that specifically, especially since they didn't build upon his character because of that. If they did build upon his character because of that, or if they do, actually, I might be able to take those words back when Guardians of the Galaxy, the Christmas volume, comes out. Yeah. Iron Man 3, a lot of potential. Kind of used the potential well, but not really. Alright, we've got 2 movies left. We've got Thor: The Dark World, which is very seen by a lot of people as the worst movie, and we've got Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is also seen as not a great movie. Okay, we'll start off with Thor: The Dark World. I'm putting Thor: The Dark World in D. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. It's a low D. In fact, yeah, it's E. It's not F because I suppose you could call there are some fine moments, like with the Loki transforming scene, and they got Chris Evans to come back and do that. That's, impressive. For, I think it was a relatively low-budget movie. Plot was pretty meh. The story was very bad. even the actors, I usually say about what I can say about all of these movies up here is that all of the actors did very well. But down here, even some of the actors were kind of like, they knew that this was not going anywhere. So they, Chris Hemsworth was just, he was kind of a joke. Not because he was being funny, but because he was so serious in so many situations. He was like, "Oh, I am Thor, God of Thunder," and like that used to be like such a they tried to do that massively, but then they took the other turn, which was the good turn, and in Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War and Endgame, he's much more like, "I am Thor, God of Thunder." He's much more prosperous, and yeah, I feel like his character was at its worst when that came out. It's not worse than Loki for reasons stated earlier, but it is still really shabby. And finally, we are going to be doing... I will make sure there aren't any shows... Oh, I have watched a bit of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but not all of it. Captain America, The Winter Soldier is the final movie we're going to be ranking, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to put this. I'm going to put Captain America, Winter Soldier in B. And in fact, I'm going to put it above Civil War. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's got a balanced amount of action. It's got a really good amount of world building. It's like actually seriously good amount of world building. I'm fairly sure that, yes, the Russo brothers did direct this one as well. It's just really good at balancing. The script is really good. Opening scene is really good. Actors are all exceptional. If there was one real misstep, I don't think you really need to fake Fury dying. I mean, I get why they did that in terms of story, and of course that's why you would do it. But I feel like that turned a lot of people off the movie instantly. But it's still, the reason I'm not putting it in AOS is because it had something that wasn't good. It's because it didn't have something that was good. It it just could have had more, is what I'm saying. It was a good movie. It was just missing some stuff. Yeah, I feel like this was Civil War done right, this movie. In fact, you know what? I'll give it a low A. I feel like it was Civil War done right. It's much more focused on Captain America, but still having, some of the Avengers characters. Black Widow along for the ride was good. Nick Fury being there was, of course, good. A lot of exposition, which is good, because it was done I suppose, in a good way. Yeah. A good movie. Okay. That is it for this tier list. I will upload this to the Discord server because some people are interested to see, even if you didn't watch the stream. Now, how many people are watching? We've got 2 concurrent viewers. Guys, to you 2 in the chat, okay, 1 left. Would you guys... I think it's just Waterkind now. Should I go ahead and do a Star Wars thing, or should I leave that for tomorrow? Because I probably do want to head off soon, because I've got some stuff to do, but I can stay on for maybe a few... Okay, I should. Alright, I suppose it wouldn't take that long. I just don't want to add it to this... Oh, do it to tomorrow. Okay, I will. Because that way, then I can prioritize it as its own stream. Thank you all, guys, for coming down, watching. It was a really fun stream to make. Again, another good stream. 16 minutes and 52 seconds of average watch time. Not as good as playbacks, but good concurrent viewers. Right. This is the final list. I'm glad that none managed to get into F. If I were being harsh, then both of these movies are F. Both of these things are F. But, I tend not to be harsh with these sort of tier lists. But yes. So, thank you all for watching. We will probably be doing another stream tomorrow. Remember, Saturday, we will be streaming Minecraft building. Minecraft Creative, that's all we're doing. Bit of fun. Yeah, thanks for watching. See